Welcome to the swing set. Climb on up. There is always a swing available. On Life on the Swing Set, the podcast, we explore ethically non-monogamous relationships, the pleasures and passions, the promise and pitfalls. We discuss all aspects of ethical non-monogamy in a fun, open, and welcoming fashion, with a gleam in our eye, a bounce in our step, our hands down your pants. Ooh, sorry, got ahead of myself. We may be biased. In fact, we most certainly are. But we don't sugarcoat, and each of us speaks honestly and earnestly about our thoughts, ideas, and experiences throughout our very own lives on the swing set. Thanks for swinging by.
Ginger and I are continuing our dig through the mailbag while Dylan is off in the Dakotas. He assured me that he was not hunting mastodon to kill them, as they've been extinct for over 10,000 years, but rather to find a preserved mastodon and then clone them through a process he explained to me with colorful cartoons featuring Mr. DNA. I fully support this endeavor. I'm here with Ginger, and I think I got the better end of the deal than the trying to clone mastodon. Jim.
I don't know. That sounds pretty awesome. It sounds
epic,
and
doesn't
sciencey.
it? Like, you know, you were picturing him in the disco. I'm picturing him actually dressed like Teddy Roosevelt. And, like, he's grown a big, bushy, like, hunter beard. And he's wearing faux animal pelts because he has not killed Mastodon because they're already gone. So he's sort of assuming the role. You know, it's fake it till you make it, I think.
Maybe still wearing a monocle and top hat.
Well, yeah, of course. Of course.
Oh, okay.
Without question.
There you go.
Yeah. So please tweet along as you listen to our episode with hashtag #SSPodcast. As you heard last week, if you want, you can tell us where you think Dylan is at hashtag #SSHiatus. And you can find us on Twitter at Cooper S. Beckett, at Ginger and the Prof, and at Dylan the Thomas. If you like what we're doing here and want to join the beta test of our private online community to chat with other swing setters and swing set hosts, sign up on our Patreon page to throw us a few bucks every time we release an episode at lifeontheswingset.com/support. Jin, should we dig right into the mailbag?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to take
it's
first
overflowing.
one? It is overflowing. An embarrassment of riches.
My ex-husband and I used to be swingers, but we stopped because he turned it into a competition, and it wasn't fun anymore. I've always been open sexually, and when I met my current husband, we've been married for 5 years, I told him about my previous experience. I gave him every opportunity to run the other direction if he didn't think he could handle, quote, who I am. But he married me anyway, and I love him dearly and love having sex with him, but I also like having sex with other people. We've talked about bringing another woman home, and he seemed to be on board with that. But as soon as I mentioned bringing another guy home, he did a complete 180, and now he's acting like I'm the bad guy, and I'm unhappy, and that he should be, quote, enough. He doesn't understand why I want to do this, and when I try to explain, he shuts me down and changes the subject. He says he's not trying to change who I am, but that is sure what it feels like.
You know, I was talking to a friend of mine who was told almost the exact same thing by her husband after having been in a long-term monogamish relationship. You know, it seems to be, and I was okay up until this point, but you ask too much now. And so now I'm going to pull us back because clearly you don't deserve the leeway I've given you because I should be enough. That's what it feels like to me. And I think the reason for it is it's sort of a retreat. You know, it's like I'm willing to open the door this much. And then when I saw something I didn't like, I couldn't handle it, so I need to pull back. So really, it indicates, like, I see fear in your husband here. I see a little bit of desperation, that I need to return to a bit of the status quo. I need to hold on to anything I can to regain control of a situation that feels like it is spiraled beyond my control. That's what I see.
I struggle with a few pieces of this, and I totally concur with what you're saying, Coop. Totally. I'm still a little bit hung up on the double standard piece.
The whole girl is not actually sex, so it's okay, or girl is titillating, so it's okay.
Right. So I feel like that already irks me about just hearing this, but I'm going to put that aside because that's its own phenomenon, and that we're not going to solve that here on the podcast tonight. So
you mean we can't solve the one penis policy?
Oh. No.
Not you and me, not you and me here right now. We can't work that out.
I want to try.
I know.
I do.
It's tempting.
There would be a lot of rage.
There would be much rejoicing if we solved that, though.
Well, you know how you solve that? You get over your fucking naked male insecurity is what you do. You get over your fucking patriarchal entitlement to having as many pussies as you want, but then somehow cocks are a problem. Like, really? Like, oh, wow. It's ridiculous. But if you have an objection, generally speaking, to non-monogamy or open relationships or having sex with other people, that's real. I get that. This is not that. And so I feel like one of the most important pieces of this is, and again, I'm not trying to pick on people here, but this insecurity that so maybe I'm okay. I'm calling myself out.
Okay.
So maybe this is actually about the double standard, because I'm feeling like it's one of those things that she brings up, oh, let's bring another woman home to enjoy and play and engage with. And he's like, ooh, sounds like fun for me. And then she brings up another guy and it turns into, I'm not enough and you're trying to replace me. What's going on in your head there, other than just completely not being able to see past the static of your own insecurity that there's another man in the room? What do you do with the fact that your female partner was the one who suggested bringing another woman home, and she's not only okay with that, but suggesting that, and you're down with that? Like, I don't understand how you can not see past the hypocrisy of that. It's frustrating. And separately, though,
I want to add a little bit to that.
Do it.
Jen.
Yeah.
It's not just hypocrisy. And this is something that I think is very important for us to recognize. That type of feeling is actually about bi erasure. Because if the same sex thing doesn't matter, it's because bi is ultimately not important. Because she's not going to leave you for another girl because she's just bi. She's not going to just decide to leave for another girl. So it's ultimately, it's far greater, I think, than just a hypocrisy level. It's actually degrading to that facet of her sexuality.
Yeah.
So
that's an important point. Thank you for bringing that up. I was completely in rant mode and continue to be really, and I'm glad that you were, had the capacity to bring up a very important point. I feel like along with all of that is the concept that one can desire other people, one can desire novelty sexually, emotionally, and it's not that your partner is lacking. It really buys into that cultural construct that monogamy is the only way. And if you want anything else, especially another man, then it must be because I suck, or my cock is too small, or my cock doesn't get hard enough, or I don't touch you in the way you want to be touched, or. And I think that is an important piece of the puzzle for this swing setter, in the sense that, she says at the end, he says he's not trying to change who I am, but that's sure what it feels like.
Yeah.
And we've talked before about, on the show, lots and lots of times, about what it looks and feels like to exist as a person who is non-monogamous. And if that's a part of who you are, that's not going to go away. That doesn't mean you have to act on it, but in this case, it sounds like acting on it is an important expression of her sexuality.
Yeah.
And that, again, kind of like we mentioned in the last episode about bisexuality, it's not going to go away. And I'm just curious. I'd really love to have a conversation with her partner to really understand what his concerns are specifically. Because if it ultimately comes down to he's monogamous and she's non-monogamous, then
right.
That's an incompatibility that they're going to have to address. But if it's because he's feeling insecure around another man, then that's something that can perhaps be handled if he's willing to take it on. And they could move into a different phase of their relationship. That could be a lot of fun.
The one other thing is, a lot of people will look at non-monogamy or bisexuality as a phase. So while you say you gave him every opportunity to run the other direction, you did everything right. You should not judge that. But if he was going along with your feelings and what you wanted and what you needed out of life, and hoping then in the back of his mind that you'd grow out of it, which is very possible, because a lot of people assume that, when you're bi until you choose a side, or you're non-monogamous when you're in that experimental phase. I don't know how old you are, but, college people are non-monogamous. Then you grow up and get jobs and become monogamous. So it is possible that he assumed that would happen, and that's not necessarily his fault, because society tells us that happens. But ultimately, I see very little wiggle room that this isn't going to come down to you saying, this is who I am, and him having to choose if he can be on board with that, which is unfortunate. Hopefully it's not that dire. Jen, you want to read the next one?
I'm primarily poly, but I used to swing quite a bit with my primary, who has since lost interest. My secondary poly partner has expressed an interest in swinging with me, and we've gone to a few clubs together. But there's a big problem. My partner's wife was always the assertive one at clubs, and they learned that they received better reactions if the woman is the one that makes the contact. Though I was okay doing this in one-on-one situations, like going to dinner with a potential play partner, I find approaching people in clubs to be extremely terrifying. Knowing that the female half of a hetero couple making the approach is more successful, I really want to make that happen. But as an introvert, I'm finding it extremely difficult. How can I make approaching people in a club setting less scary and more fun?
I'm not good at this, Jen. I also find it scary, but I don't have the assets. We are talking swing club assets here, so.
Gotcha. Oh boy. Well, this is tough because for me, because I come at it from a very extroverted place. Mm-hmm. And I've also been very open and forward about the fact that I have made a lot of peace with rejection. And so being able to do that over the years has helped me find my way to propositioning people in a way that is, I feel, I don't want to say less invested, but less concerned about the answer. I feel like the end of this question is the most important part, which is how do I make this less scary and more fun?
Right.
Is remembering that it's actually all fun. Like, it's all fun. Like, you've mentioned lots of different partners, and you've mentioned that you're at a swing club, and I feel like there's no way to lose here. And if you can wrap your head and mind and introverted self, which I'll be very clear, I can't relate to that piece. But if you can wrap your mind around the fact that all of this is playful and fun, and even a rejection leaves you still hand in hand with your partner or other partners, then you can just make it happen. And it's, again, almost like the answer to the proposition doesn't ultimately matter. I mean, if you don't ask, gosh, we've talked about this so much on the show, Coop. If you don't ask, then you're certainly not going to get any kind of awesomeness. You're not going to get any kind of extra fun that
you're rejecting yourself. That's
exactly.
I've kind of come around the bend on that. It's not even that you are more likely to get a yes if you ask, which is of course true.
Right.
But the thing you are most afraid of is a no, and you're getting a no by not asking. So you are doing the thing you are most afraid will happen. You are doing it to yourself. And I think that's it. I agree. It still doesn't emotionally help when you're out there and see the cute person and want to approach and don't feel you can. But by not doing it, you are actually rejecting yourself. And as we learned last week, again, if I had asked the sexy woman I was talking to make out with her, she would have said, hell yes. And instead, we direct messaged about it, and now she's back hundreds of miles away where I can't make out with her.
Yes.
So, really, it is the simplest thing in the world that is so difficult to do. You just need to do it, and you'll get better at it. Like, honestly, I have gotten significantly better at it simply by doing it, because I have learned that ultimately the worst possible scenario is just a no, which means I don't get to play with the people, which is what I was doing anyway.
Along with that, I feel like I've said this before, Coop, and you're exactly right. Like, you land in the same spot on the game board if you ask. It's the same.
It's the gumdrop bridge right now.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I was so right there. That's just weird. I was having a moment of how to make Candyland sexy.
Well, you can't. And I don't even know if there is a gumdrop bridge.
Well,
but that's
right, we're gonna leave that right now.
We're at the gumdrop bridge.
So what I was gonna say is there's a lot of this, and I can and do respect introverts and extroverts, and extroverted introverts and introverted extroverts and all of that jazz. There's a big part of this that is you're writing your own story. So the more you tell yourself that you're not good at propositioning, the more you tell yourself that you're an introvert and it's hard to do it, the more you don't do it, the more you're not exercising the muscle to make it happen. And Prof and I have talked about this a fair bit. We're going to talk about it more on intellectual foreplay, the idea of flirting for sport, that there's also the opportunity to just go in and have a good time with the interaction, be really, really playful, and, call an audible if you want to make a proposition right there in that moment. And I feel like when you slowly but surely rewrite your story, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, and you just do it, that all of a sudden, like you're sharing, Coop, like it becomes easier and easier. Mm-hmm. Not to say it's ever easy.
No.
But it becomes easier. And I would wager that the benefits far outweigh the costs when it comes to putting yourself out there, especially at a club. Like, I feel like, it's fascinating to me as an extrovert that the idea of being on a one-on-one date is far more intimidating to me to proposition that person than it is to be at a club. Like, that's kind of amazing to me. I mean, if I'm sitting across from this person at dinner and I'm into them, and then we're, halfway through the entree and I'm like, so I want to do all of these naughty, nasty, amazing things to you. And they're like, not so much. Dinner's great. I'm good. Oh my gosh. That's a more.
Okay. I am curious, Jen.
Yes.
Have you ever misread the situation that much?
Ooh.
Because I feel like you would have known lack of interest.
Let me think about that. I
mean, I've been to the dinner where you can clearly see the lack of interest, and that is rough because you're seeing lack of interest sitting across from you, waiting for the check to come.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
But,
I think, I agree. I feel like, it brings us back to, I am not content with wondering. And maybe that's the extrovert in me. So if I do have a question.
So, we going to do this?
Right. And I'd like to say I'm a little more seductive and finessing and elegant than that in the proposition.
I think you do the V thing. Who's the wrestler that did the V, down to the crotch?
I don't know.
It's like, are we going to do this? Boom. Listeners.
Yeah.
I don't know wrestling, so feel free to correct me on that one.
And I don't know wrestling either. And
where's Dylan mastodon hunting when he could be telling us who the wrestler is?
Maybe he's wrestling.
Oh, like with the I think Dylan's a luchador. I'm sorry, I completely derailed you there, Jen.
So you had asked the question about me misreading. I mean, first of all, I am not, I believe that I've had experiences where I've misread folks, and I've certainly had experiences where I've been rejected. And I have survived all of them, as I am here as, Exhibit A podcasting on the swing set. And so I feel like, you ascribe as much value or as much gravity to those rejections or to those misreadings as you want to. And maybe I've just gotten better at letting them, like skipping a stone, like, oh, there it goes. Look at that. Like, done and done. I move on to the next thing. And I feel like the more that we build it up, the more that we tell the story that we're not good at propositioning, or we're not good at taking rejection, or we're not, if you just make happen what you want to have happen and have it be playful, the rejections, they kind of go by fast. And like, truth be told, I know for a fact that I'm certain I've misread different things at different times, and I've certainly had sexual experiences go in a very wrong way. Those are stories we could tell at some point. I remember a lot of those.
I think we should tell those stories at some point.
I would love to tell those stories. I've been begging for that episode for years, but I have so many of those stories. But truth be told, I go back to the more that you make it playful and fun, the more you're able to just move beyond the rejections. You can move beyond the propositions that go horribly awry. You can move beyond all of that. And again, I bring it back to, especially in the case of the swing setter who wrote the question, this listener, you've got other partners. You've got folks who are there with you, and you've got all kinds of fun, sexy experiences at your disposal already. And so the risk is minimal.
Absolutely.
It's as minimal as you let it be.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more listener questions while Jen and I gangbang the mailbag. Life on the Swing Set has now spent 4 years gradually ramping up our presence at the greatest place on earth, Desire Resort and Spa in Cancun, Mexico. The most wonderful part of Swing Set's annual trip to paradise has been the diversity of those couples that have chosen to join us. We've had nudists, polyamorous quads, couples looking to explore, longtime swingers, exhibitionists, and those just curious. We also run the gamut on sheer variety of geekery. For our 5th year, we decided to pursue aggressive expansion and take the resort to ourselves in 2016. That's right, Swing Set is doing a takeover. For the first time, Swing Set will have the run of the resort, to organize the theme nights we want to enjoy, to plan the activities without worrying about getting out of anybody's way, and to guarantee the most awesome group of people to ever pull up on this bit of beach on the Riviera Maya. We're already over 60% booked and getting down to the wire. Come with us and Char Travel this November 5th through 12th for this most amazing experience for a week we're calling Choose Your Own Adventure. We've sold out every year, and only a deposit will hold a room. Go to ssdesire.com for more information. We'd love to have you join us in paradise.
We at the Swing Set believe that being risk-aware and practicing safer sex makes our lifestyle exponentially better. With that in mind, we're partnering with Lucky Bloke, global condom experts and the best online source for condoms and lube, to say no to mediocre condoms and bring the most pleasurable, safer sex directly to our listeners. Go to swingsetcondoms.com to see a specially curated selection of condoms, lubes, and assortments to reintroduce variety and excitement into the protection portion of your playtime. You should especially take note of the deluxe sampler put together by us at the Swing Set for your party and date night kit. Making your condom purchase here supports both us at the Swing Set and the wonderful purveyors of safer sex, the Lucky Bloke. swingsetcondoms.com.
Welcome back to Life on the Swing Set, the podcast. Tonight, you have Ginger and myself gangbanging the mailbag. She's got cocks on her thighs. They're with lovely harnesses, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I feel like that needs to be a song lyric.
Cocks on the thighs?
She's got cocks on her thighs.
I like the wistful way you sang it, because I was immediately thinking like a hardcore song, and you're almost like Van Morrison over there singing about cocks on the thighs. No, it's lovely. I like it. I'm with you. Whoever listeners want to go ahead and tell us about the song or sing the song "Cocks on the Thighs."
Oh my gosh!
By
Absolutely.
Van Morrison.
Or Metallica.
Or both. One of those songs that switches gears about midway through.
Whoa.
I have the next
That'd be
question
intense. Let's hear it.
My wife and I are new to the lifestyle and exploring playing separately. I recently went from being a stay-at-home dad to traveling a few weeks at a time or more. While I was out of town, my wife RSVP'd to a play party. The night of the party, she called nervous, and I helped her get past her fear and go. She called later to let me know she was home and safe. She was very tired, but gave me a quick rundown as I was very interested. I was also overwhelmed with negative emotions, and I don't have the vocabulary to describe them, and jealousy. I spent all of my free time the next 3 days journaling, thinking, and talking to my wife. She answered all my questions and told me all about the evening. She loved it, by the way. After 3 days of writing, texting, and talking, I figured out what I was a wreck about. I did not get my needs fulfilled when I tried a solo date, got blown off, and couldn't reconnect with my wife here since I was out of town. I need help and ideas on how I can change to feel better about this, because she did not deserve in any way my reactions. I'm really glad that she had an amazing first experience. I hope to have one soon. I feel this guy.
Yeah.
I have had that terrible gut reaction to situations. And interestingly, Jen, I don't know if you know this, the reason I like to do most of my communication about tough situations via instant messenger is because I can react and then 2 minutes later type a better reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's, especially early on in non-monogamy, it's really, really easy to have a gut reaction or a knee-jerk reaction and have it be negative. And I think we all need to give our partner the space to be occasionally negative and then come back, a few minutes later with, okay, well, hold on. Or days later, I was an ass there. I'd like to have another go at that. And we need to recognize that we're probably going to do that. I think it's great that he did a lot of journaling and thinking and talking here.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I find is really I connect with a lot is I have in multiple relationships been the guy who's encouraging my partner to get over their stress and concerns and go and do things that they may be really nervous about, and then have also reacted badly when I've heard about the things that they went and did that I spent an hour encouraging them to go do. And that is the worst paradox ever right there. Because it makes you feel like an idiot and it makes you feel so wrong about your reaction. And so I feel that. I don't have a solution for that. I just wanted to say I feel that.
Well, and I can appreciate that. And I think a lot of folks can feel that. I feel like I have a solution, yet
Good.
It's not. It's not an easy solution.
Right.
And if you'll allow me a few distinctions here. The first one is, I think it's pretty awesome that these swing setters are exploring playing separately because it is titillating to them and it works for them. And that's awesome. I feel like one of the reflections I want to share is Prof and I have been doing this a long time, and we still find that we have speed bumps when we have separate experiences because they're by nature separate experiences. And so the partner that you want to keep completely in the fold, that you want to keep completely up to date and on point with all of what you're experiencing wasn't there. And they had some sort of other experience. Additionally, they might have had no other experience. And so there's this feeling of unevenness, which we try to avoid. That's not like we have to, keep things fair as fair. You get yours, I get mine. That's definitely something that we've shared in past episodes that we want to avoid that. That's never going to work in our favor. And so I feel like this swing setter has handled all of that stuff and has really wrapped his mind around that. And I go back to what you had shared that sure, like everyone has, excuse me, everyone has emotional reactions
Right.
to experiences. And I just want to make a very clear distinction. And this brings me to a discussion about mindfulness, in that there is a distinction between reacting, which is that knee-jerk reaction, and a response, which is, this is coming from my truth. This is coming from the person I want to be. This is coming from the person I know I am, versus this is coming from the tired person or the jealous person or the person who is not my best self in this moment. And so that's not to say that those emotions are not valid or legitimate, but they're just that. They're emotions. And our truth comes from a more integrated part of self, in the sense that you come from not just your emotion, but also from your intellect and from your energy and from your physical being. And so when you integrate all of those things together, then you bring your truth, you bring your best self. And so I bring it back to the solution, which can be as simple as saying to your partner, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that story. I'm really excited you had that experience. I need to take some time to process how I'm feeling about that before we talk about it. And allowing your partner to hear that, but then going to the space of recognizing that sometimes you need to bring yourself back to center before you respond rather than react. And we often feel like, especially in open relationships and ethical non-monogamy, that immediate real-time communication is necessary.
Right.
And it's not about the real-time immediate communication. It's about the authentic truth of the communication. And so being able to say then, after you've taken however long it takes to kind of process whatever it looks like to create that response rather than that reaction, to say, at first I was feeling really jealous and sad and left out and all of these things, but I take emotional responsibility for that. I am also simultaneously very happy and excited you had these experiences. But if you're leading with only the emotional tidal wave, then your partner's not going to be able to hear the other part. And so I feel like I bring it back to the solution that all of those emotions are real, that reaction is real, but that isn't necessarily your truth, because it's very clear this swing setter was excited for his partner, was excited and is excited for his own experiences. And so allowing for the wholeness in the response rather than the very tiny little sliver of reaction is an important distinction. And I offer that as a solution to everyone, including myself.
Good call. It's always good when you can give yourself a little extra learning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jen, you want to ask the next question?
I am a 39-year-old female married to a 40-year-old male. I've discovered I have a bit of a voyeur fetish. I like watching real couples in love have sex. Gay, straight, lesbian, whatever. And I really want to go to a swingers club where I can talk to and meet like-minded, open people. He's open enough to go to a club, but we talked about the rules. No touching someone else. I'm 100% fine with that. I just really want to look and talk, as that will turn me on beyond belief. Is it okay to be a voyeur at a swingers on-premise club? My husband isn't comfortable with the idea of playing with anyone or even watching me play. I don't want this first experience to scare him away.
Well, yes, it is okay to be a voyeur, but always ask if you can watch. That's important. I mean, if people are out in the middle of the orgy room then you can be a voyeur. And really, you can also be a voyeur playing with each other and watching other people fuck. It doesn't have to be creepy voyeur, which is you fully clothed standing in the corner staring. That's creepy regardless of the sex. It's creepier, honestly, if you have your cock out and are jacking it. That's creepy. And that has a bad name attached to it. Legitimately. But you two going to a swing club to play together and expand your exploration, that's an amazing idea. And that's a great, I don't know that I would consider it the lowest key step, but it's a good step, I think.
There's a couple of pieces to this. One is, I think a lot of folks, regardless of their arrangement or how they've negotiated with their partner, a lot of folks are just voyeurs at swing clubs. And maybe just because they're by circumstance voyeurs that night, or by nature of just wanting to play with each other, or by nature of they were the last ones on the dance floor and everyone is spoken for. So I feel like it's not a rarity to be a voyeur at a swing club. So feeling like you're doing it because that's the arrangement that you have with your partner, that there's not going to be touching or playing, and you go in with that mindset. I don't think it's any different than a lot of folks who are just being voyeurs by default. And so I would encourage you to not feel like you're setting yourselves apart because you're quote unquote just voyeurs. And I feel like as well, you could certainly find sexy friends that would be excited and willing to have you watch them.
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty fun proposition just in and of itself, to get practiced at saying, the two of us want to be together. We want to play together. We might touch each other. We might have sex next to you. Our deal is we don't touch, we don't play, but we're really excited and into watching. Are you into that? And I also feel like a lot of the experiences that I've had in on-premise clubs, I've been playing with Prof, or we've had experiences throughout the night, and just the two of us dancing and whatever. And then we end up landing somewhere playing together. And once we were playing together, we were kind of off limits in the sense that we weren't propositioned when we were playing. So it left us open to just be voyeurs. So I feel like there's this sort of default that if you're playing with another person, very rarely in an on-premise club, unless you've made previous arrangements, it's pretty rare that people come up and do the whole tap you on the shoulder, hey, can we blah, 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 whatever, get in on this. And so there's that element of, if the two of you are just playing together, and you're in a public space, then you have the opportunity to just be voyeurs because other people aren't going to interrupt what you have going on already. So you're not having to proposition someone to watch them. You're just in the public space and having that experience. And it's also been a rare experience that even in that circumstance, if someone did proposition me, it was very easy to say no, thank you. And they were very quick to move along. You'll just have to be prepared to set your own boundaries and be very clear that, no, we're just playing with each other tonight. You don't have to say, no, please don't touch me. No, you don't have to explain the whole thing. You just say, no, thank you. We're just playing with each other. And that's all that other person needs to know, typically speaking.
Right. But enjoy the exploration. And definitely talk about what you will do. You and your partner talk about what you will do in the event that somebody asks you. Because that is valuable to know going in. And establishing what you will do may make him more comfortable because he won't be worried about, well, what happens if this happens?
Agreed. I mean, certainly talking through scenarios is a great foundation. And I also realized, Coop, that I just jumped to that these sexy swing setters were going to all of a sudden just like strip off their clothes and start fucking in front of other people. I didn't even have that mindset. Like, you can certainly in a fair number of clubs be a voyeur fully clothed in a non-creepy way. If there's a public space, I've certainly, stood there fully clothed, drink in hand, watching the most incredible live sex show I've ever seen, just of people enjoying themselves with one another, depending on the club. Some on-premise clubs will require you to disrobe when you go into the play space. A lot of other places and house parties, you can certainly watch in a very awesome, wide open arms, wide open eyes way. And that's fully accepted by the folks who are playing in the public space. You don't have to ask every single person's consent in the room. They're playing in a public space, and you can stand there in your sexy black dress, champagne flute in hand, enjoying the sexy sex show with your partner, and then excuse yourselves to go, play and explore and enjoy each other back in your own home.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fun to be had there.
Oh my goodness, yes. It's a really exciting thing to consider, having that exploration for the first time.
Okay, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll have another question from our listeners. Life on the Swing Set, the podcast.
We all come to a point in our lives when we finally ask the ever-looming question, is this all there is? And most of us coast along afterwards, just accepting that the answer to that question is probably, yeah, this is it. Sometimes, though, we're lucky. Sometimes we run into the right people at the right time. The young couple at the center of A Life Less Monogamous, the new novel by Cooper S. Beckett, are about to meet a couple of swingers, and this moment will change their lives. Cooper's first novel is already receiving acclaim, and you can pick it up today, direct from the author at alifelessmonogamous.com, as a signed paperback, DRM-free ebook, or audiobook, read by Cooper himself and me, Kat Stark. Use promo code SWINGSET at checkout to save 10%. You can also get Cooper's memoir, My Life on the Swing Set, Adventures in Swinging and Polyamory, as an ebook, signed paperback, or audiobook at mylifeontheswingset.com. Enjoy more Cooper today, in book form.
When it comes to online dating, we here at the Swing Set believe that Cassidy is the best one out there. It looks great, it's intuitive and easy to use, and it's simply full of potential sexy friends. Still the fastest growing online swinger dating site in the world, Cassidy has been our go-to site for the last 3 years. If you sign up using our link at lifeontheswingset.com/KASIDIE, you'll get some free time to explore the site. And you can decide for yourself if Cassidy is the site for you. Hope to see you there at Cassidy.com. Welcome back to Life on the Swing Set, the podcast, with Ginger and I gangbanging the mailbag. I have another question for us tonight, and it seems to be in theme with last week's mailbag. My wife and I have been in an exclusive relationship with a couple for a few months now. Everything is great. This morning, my wife tells me that she and the other female have emotional feelings for each other. I'm good with that. They do not play at all when the four of us are together, but have a couple of times alone. The girlfriend's husband is not into watching woman on woman. I, on the other hand, am. My wife jokingly said, "We have already talked about me having a husband and a wife." This tells me she may be thinking of a poly relationship. I know nothing about poly relationships and how they work. Where can I get educated? Second, I don't want to leave her husband out. I want us to continue on like we have been, and I want everything to continue to be open and honest. I have a bad habit of overthinking things, so a polyamorous relationship may not even be in their thinking. I'm just saying that if it does happen, I want to be prepared, and I want all of us to be educated. He does sound like he has a bad habit of overthinking things. As somebody who has a bad habit of overthinking things, I will first tell you the ways to get educated are, we talk a fair amount about poly, but I assume you already listened to this show. We had a show called Pedestrian Polyamory on that you can still find at Swingset FM. The best active poly podcast, without a doubt, is Polyamory Weekly with Cunning Minx. The best book in the world, as far as I'm concerned, about non-monogamy that focuses a lot on polyamory is Opening Up by Tristan Taormino. So there's some resources, first off. I do think he's putting the cart before the horse a little bit here, Jen. What do you think?
You know, I don't mind that he is, because it's good to explore all of this. So I hear what you're saying, that it can feel a little bit like he's thinking quite a bit downstream. But I feel like, too, it sounds like there's a lot of really good communication already happening, and the women being able to have a connection without labels is a lovely thing. And I feel like you can take it as it comes. But again, I commend him for thinking downstream. So overthinking can have its useful place.
Excellent. I think it'd be great for you all to talk about this. Y'all talk about this.
Yeah, wow.
One of the things that can be very concerning in a close swinger couple relationship is when it feels like you're being cut out of it because people are not talking about it. And it doesn't sound like anyone wants to cut him out. It sounds like you just want to also do other things. So the key is, this is an addition to your relationship, not instead of us getting together as a foursome tonight, we're going to get together as a threesome. And even that may be okay if you have conversations about it. But the conversations are absolutely key. And just go on Amazon and buy 4 copies of Opening Up and give it to everybody. You probably could get away with 2.
Book club.
Book club, yeah.
Read it to each other.
Then discuss.
I feel like there's something to be said, too, in this whole scenario, that you're all getting together, you're all reading the books, you're discussing, you're figuring things out, and not putting yourselves in a predetermined box. That, you know, the idea of who wants to be involved in what way emotionally and sexually, allow everyone to have their own ideas about what that looks and feels like, and then make that happen. And, you know, for example, the one sexy swing setter who, you know, he's not into watching 2 women together. Well, okay, just because he's not doesn't mean the other sexy swing setter guy can't be like, you know what, ladies, I'd be really into watching and being a voyeur if you're down for that. Like, there's always the opportunity to put your needs and desires and wants out there. That doesn't mean they're going to always be fulfilled. It's just like, you know, you have all the flexibility and creativity in making this relationship happen however you want it to happen. So the idea of putting a swing label or a poly label or a wife or a husband or a, you know, lady lover label on it, none of that has to be, none of that has to dictate how you behave as 4. I just think that's an important distinction to make, that the behavior is there for all of you to shape. And that doesn't mean that anyone needs to have it look a certain way.
Right.
And it may change over time. I mean, that's, we've talked a lot about labels and behavior on the show, and that labels can limit behavior and behavior can defy labels. So let's leave some room for creativity and let the relationship in the big scheme of things be exactly what everyone wants it to be.
Yes. All that. So, Jen, you know what we should do tonight?
What?
We should have business. I mean, we have business, but we should talk about business.
I agree.
Because it's been a while.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
A long while, in fact. And you've traveled.
I have. I went to Portland, which was just as amazing as you might expect it to be.
Oh, my goodness.
And
that's awesome.
While, it definitely falls into that whole Portland vortex of, there's no polite way of saying hipster. That it falls in, it's very Portland. How about that? While I experienced a lot of things that were very Portland, I did have a wonderful host while I was there. First, Sex Positive World brought me out there. They wanted to do an event called Polytopia, and I got to be there with other wonderful people, and that was a really amazing experience. And the gentleman who gave me a room at his house also took me on a tour of the various waterfalls and gorges up there.
Oh, neat.
It was a spontaneous thing where it was just like, hey, we've got some time before the opening ceremonies tonight. You want to see the gorge? And it was crazy. Like there was one waterfall that I took pictures of. I think I posted it on my Instagram, that it looked like we were in Rivendell. For the non-nerds out there, that is a location from the Lord of the Rings. So yeah, it was
I
stunning.
bet it was gorgeous.
Oh, Ginger.
I
Wow.
I could not.
You couldn't not. I mean, how could you not?
How could you not?
No, how could you not?
But thank you for the cheat sheet for the non-nerds.
No, I have to give it, Rivendell is a little bit, like if I said Hobbiton, I mean, come on. I think even if I went with the Shire, you'd know.
Right.
Rivendell, I don't know, we're getting into a gray area.
It's like the B-side.
Yeah.
Well, what an awesome thing that you were able to go over there to the left coast. And,
to the left coast. The wet coast, as friends of ours call it.
Mm-hmm.
Though I think she's talking about herself.
and do the thing that you do.
I did. I did the thing that I did, and it was really cool. I tried out a new workshop that I called Coloring Outside the Lines, and talked about how exploring your sexuality gives you important tools to give you a better life, which was very cool. And I talked a lot about impermanence in that. I sort of led with it so I could end on an up note. So I led with impermanence.
Uh-huh.
And it was great. I was really excited because it was a bit more opaque of a topic.
Yeah.
Like the progressive swinging topic, that's easy. People get it. It's got the word swinging in it. Okay, we're going to talk about swinging. And the poly people are curious about swinging. So, it's easy sell. You got one called Coloring Outside the Lines, then people are just like, oh, I mean, it's a Sunday, and I don't know what he's going to talk about. That's my impression of people reading the brochure.
Right.
But it was actually more full than my swinging workshop.
Cool.
And I was very excited by that. And it was really gratifying. It made me think that a future book should be the coloring outside the lines topic for me.
Is there some foreshadowing here?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say anything about it because I've got another one that I'm stressed about writing already.
Oh, you're not stressed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, really.
You're partying with all those people in your brain.
Well, I am. But for me, actual writing is just filling the space between panic that I'm not writing. Writer's block is the norm. The writing is the aberration.
Well, if you were coming all the time, you'd be exhausted.
It's very true.
I mean, really.
No, and it was awesome that you and I got a chance to workshop. So we were talking about the Approaching the Swingularity novel, which is the sequel, sort of, to A Life Less Monogamous.
Yes.
And that we follow the 4 characters we've already met to a resort in Mexico, just, I mean, for legal reasons, not desire.
Right.
But a resort in Mexico. And we meet a whole lot of other characters. And so Jen and I were brainstorming characters, which was very exciting. And I was asked by a friend on Twitter if I could make one of them into one of the females in the book in the STEM field. So I've decided to make her an astrophysicist for one of the characters.
Yeah.
Smart ladies. So that was fun. And I really enjoyed workshopping characters with you. It's
I know.
It was a lovely experience that we need to do all the time.
Yes. So much brain tribbing needs to be had.
So, Jen, do you have any recent business? Besides, obviously going to Desire and putting the stakes down in advance for our November takeover.
We did. Well, one of the things that I find fascinating about being there other times is our reputation precedes us. And the staff also is very clear that our energy level during the week that we are going to take over, we've not even taken over in the past, but close-ish. But this year, they're aware that it's a takeover, and they're aware the energy level that we bring to the resort. Yeah. And they're excited because swing setters are sweet and awesome and respectful and, don't bang their cups on the bar because they expect the next drink and, do all of the things that are respectful of the folks who make the magic happen for us while we're there. But at the same time, they know that the hot tub will be busy until 3+ in the morning. They know many pizzas will be had. And one of the things that I find fascinating is when Prof and I are there with other couples who are swing setters, but not a full resort of swing setters, is the ebb and flow of the resort tends to be a bit more tame. And at least during the times we've been there. So I found it fascinating to hear the impressions of the staff of, when we take over in November, what it looks and feels like for them. A, they find it awesome. And B, they, need to put their feet up after we leave because we give them a run for their money because we are keeping that place hopping from, the entire time we're there. I mean, there's just no time people sleep. So, other than anticipating November, Prof and I have just been really
in love.
Yeah, really enjoying each other and enjoying doing our own podcasting for intellectual foreplay. So that's been a lot of fun for us, and it's given us the opportunity to create a little bit of structure around our own explorations together and create a record moving forward. Because already just listening, we've not been doing it for a long time, but already listening to how things have shifted in our life since we've started, has been a fun phenomenon for us. So, so we've been enjoying spending time together, podcasting and not podcasting, doing very sexy things.
Well, Jen, we have a review from a fan. Would you like to read it?
I would love to. This middle-aged vanilla prude is a fan! ! I never ever thought I'd love a podcast on swinging, but this is one of my top 5 faves and a must listen as I researched the field. Thank you for the swing set.
Isn't that nice? Thank you for the review.
Yes, thank you for the review, and thank you for being a willing middle-aged vanilla prude to enjoy whatever we bring and letting that be cool with you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Just because you listen doesn't mean you have to follow in our footsteps or
No, you can get that awesome voyeur thrill that
totally
that I used to get listening to Dan Savage back when I was a vanilla boy.
Totally. We absolutely approve.
Yes, indeed. And listeners, if you can and you enjoy what we do, please do give us a review on your platform of choice. iTunes reviews are very, very important for ranking, so we would love it if you could review us, and maybe we'll read it on the show. Just saying. So you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theswingset. Check out this podcast, daily blogs, articles, and toy reviews on our website at lifeontheswingset.com and on our site's Twitter feed at ontheswingset. Email us at contact@lifeontheswingset.com. Give us a call, leave us a voicemail, send us a text for an upcoming mailbag episode at 573-55-SWING. That's 573-557-9464. Don't forget to buy your condoms from the Lucky Bloke at swingsetcondoms.com. It supports them, it supports us, and gets you great, great condoms. You can visit our Patreon page to throw us $1 or $10 every time we release an episode, and supporters at our Patreon page get access to our awesome swing set community before anybody else. It's like the VIP line. And you can do that at lifeontheswingset.com/support. As we mentioned at the beginning of this episode, while Dylan is on hiatus, you should tweet what you think Dylan is on hiatus doing. And we are going to try to make sure that the person who tweets the best thing gets something cool. That's the best I can give because I just came up with that idea while saying it. So I can't promise what it will be.
He wants to give you something awesome for saying something awesome. So and that's as specific as we're going to get.
So you should tweet with the hashtag #SSHiatus and tell us, what is Dylan doing on his hiatus? You can find our other great podcasts like the Gentle Pervert Social Club, Intellectual Foreplay, Sex at a Go-Go, Tell Me Something Good, the Don't Panic podcast, and our new podcasts, Multi-Amory and Our Better Half at swingset.fm. And again, I'm hoping that, as I say, you can download our app at swingset.fm/app. It is still at Google because they fucked us once, and you never know when they could fuck you again. So you should probably, if you have an Android device, you should download the app now. Like now. And finally, you can buy my novel about swinging, A Life Less Monogamous, at alifelessmonogamous.com, or my memoir, My Life on the Swing Set, Adventures in Swinging and Polyamory, at mylifeontheswingset.com. Both are available as an ebook, paperback, or audiobook, and if you buy them from my site, use promo code SWINGSET to save 10%. Thank you, Jen, for hanging out with me again.
I love hanging out with you.
I love hanging out with you.
Awesome.
And thank you, listeners, for swinging by.
Have a sexy business? Love the swing set? Let's put these two great things together. The Swing Set Network has advertising and sponsorship packages available for our websites and podcasts. Email advertising@lifeontheswingset.com for more information. Thanks.
I'm Tina Horn, author of Love Not Given Lightly and host of the Wire People Into That podcast. And you're listening to a Swing Set podcast.